Колеги, ми продовжуємо.
We continue our working day, and the topic of the next press briefing is current situation and tendencies on the temporary occupied areas of Donetsk and Luhansk regions. And our speaker is Vadym Skybytskyi, Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Chief Intelligence Department. You're given the floor. Good afternoon, everyone, dear ladies and gentlemen. Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Chief Intelligence Department prepared a report on the current situation and tendencies on the temporarily occupied areas of Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast. The situation intense and is characterized by preparation of the enemy to activate the military actions and also carrying out of actions and battle readiness in conditions of sharp changes in the situation. Also movement of troops that is hidden and to the line of contact. Also some preparations and training, and also the trainings of Russian Federation forces and the divisions of first and second military corps. They are trained in advance activities and also in counteracting NATO forces. Also, there is an accumulation of ammunition, oil and fuel and other materials that are brought from the territory of Russian Federation. During the week, the enemy carried out 368 shellings of Ukrainian positions with the use of artillery systems, RPC mortars, and also anti-aircraft weapon. And yesterday they used grads. And the most threatening situation is in Donetsk area and Slavyansk direction. And also, starting from 26th of February till 3rd of March, we observed 31 fact of military equipment that should have been withdrawn. And in the 15-kilometer area, there were 13 facts, and there were observed 44 tanks. And in 25-kilometer area, 12 facts. There were 304 units of military equipment and 35-kilometer zone, 6 facts. These were 15 grads near Gorlovka, Donetsk, Krasnogorovka, Monachova, and Teres. All this information was transferred to the OSCE representatives. And also trainings are in the units of Russian Federation, first and second corps are trained, and in the occupied territories intensive trainings continued. Different units were trained in all the components of Russian troops, and the main were the mortar and rifle, artillery units, and also in the polygons near Mospilmen, Teres, Markina, Mrosivka, Shemshinivka, Bugaivka, and others. There were more than 20 trainings conducted by Russian occupation forces. They trained advancing and counter-acting of the enemy. And there was also some cooperation among the 3rd and 2nd Corps, and they also carry out some training, and also they are trained for the brigade technical training. And brigade technical training is the last final training of the winter training of the occupation forces. The training activity is observed and verified by the materials of space observation from space. And also there is Azov fleet, and it is the creation of the fleet is on the way. Novazovsk and Bezimenne, in order to form this fleet, they got 7 different types of ships and boats they took it from the local residents. And they also prepare for some actions, and they are trained in this. Also, they improve logistics of the forces, and the 4th Brigade and the 9th and 11th brigades, they are making some fortifying at the front line and also in the rear of defense. They create strongholds and establish minefields. And in order, they involve some personnel in these activities, and because there's a deficit of special and building materials, the militants take the materials from the ruined buildings and objects of infrastructure. Russian Federation continue actively supply military equipment and also the mercenaries to the occupied territory. And in the week, the militants of 1st and 2nd Army Corps, they were supplied by 18 tanks and IPCs and more than 260 tons of ammunition. Also, they brought on the 18th of February, they brought by the humanitarian convoy in the territory of Ukraine stations for reconnaissance and also laser equipment for reconnaissance activities and other equipment for reconnaissance. Also, I would like to note that in the territory of Ukraine, from this starting from this year, more than 1,000 people came that were trained in the territory of Russian Federation in Rostov Oblast, and they were brought to the territory of Ukraine. And they are camouflaged, they are in the civil clothes, and then they arrive, then they change their clothes for military uniform, and then they carry out military activities. And they use schools, kindergartens, and other facilities of infrastructure as places of their deployment. And occupation forces use about 80 schools and kindergartens and also educational institutions and hostels of these institutions. And among these objects, I would like to note that there is National University in Donetsk, 77 school in, and also Karl Marx School, and also the technical school in Makiivka, Brigantina, Zirachka, hotels, and also in Bezimena, and also in Stakhanova, the school. And these facilities are deployed in the towns and cities and are actively used for provocations. Chief Intelligence Department also observed the activities of Russian Federation that try to ruin infrastructure in the east of our state. It is established that from the occupied territories of Lugansk and Donetsk oblasts, they brought to Russia the equipment of more than 20 plants. Among them are Topaz Company, Lugansk plant, Lugansk machine building plant, Lugansk mechanical plant, and Tochmash machine building, Kharkivsky machine building, tube building, and Intersplav plant. And the equipment of 13 enterprises are partly or fully looted, and metal constructions are for scrap. They are brought for scrap. And the Donetsk North Lugansk tube plant, Nishansky machine building plant, and also in ATB and Mizhezhinsky mine in Pervomaysk and in other enterprises. And in the occupied territories of Donetsk Oblast, they started a new wave of clearance of those whom they cannot trust. The detached group Sparta, Somali, and detached motorized brigade Vostok. And they appoint Russian officers at these positions. And they are employing the clearance intelligence, the FSB of Russia, they have direct orders to physically destroy the persons who try to oppose them. And I also want to draw your attention to the activity of the Chief Intelligence Department. They gather facts of participation of Russian officers in the committing crimes in occupied territories, and then this data will be provided to the International Criminal Court. Military intelligence of Ukraine observed that the head of 1st Army Corps is the Russian officer Valery Grigoryevich Zapov, and it is established that the commander, during the 3rd of March, he verified the detached motorized regiment, and at the position of the deputy of the 1st Corps leader is the officer of Russian Army, Shirkov Yevgen Vladimirovich, and Chief Intelligence Department observes the situation with the participation of Russian officers in the territory of Ukraine, gather the facts and evidence in order to provide this information to proper international institutions. This is the end of the briefing, and I am ready to answer your question. We first, please introduce yourself, Alexandra Gat, 5th channel. Could you tell us in more detail what is the information on the forming of the 3rd Reserve Army Corps that is formed in the territory of Russia? Do you have the information about the number of brigades, about the number of staff, and when it is going to be used and how? The forming of the 3rd Army Corps, Reserve Corps, we observed the plans and we saw that there were some actions in the formation of the corps. And the first information on this appeared in March or in May 2014. And the main task of this corps at that time, it was Mariupol area, where it was planned to deploy. And then in June, July, they planned to deploy the corps in the region of Serevenki, and it will be a reserve corps. But at the time, Russian Federation rejected these plans, maybe because then in this territory there was a great number of structural divisions, military divisions of Russian Federation, and at that time the forming of one more corps was questionable. And now the preliminary information on the formation of such a corps, there is such an information, and according to the data and inspections that were carried out by the southern district of Russian Federation forces in the 1st and the 2nd Corps, they made a conclusion that at this time they are not ready to carry out independently military tasks, and that's why maybe there will be a decision on creation of separate corps in the occupied territories, and it will strengthen the military capabilities of Russian occupation forces in the east of Ukraine. Thank you, Vadym, and do you have other questions or comments? If there's no comments or questions, thank you very much, and we end our press briefing. Goodbye. Colleagues, I remind that our next press briefing is at 2:15.